been following him for years. So let me pull this up really quick because I think this is the perfect example of what I'm talking about multiple income streams and everything else. So this guy right here, he runs Dark Horse um, Workshop. So he does leatherworking. So his primary day job is he does leatherworking for TV shows in, I forget what part of Canada. It might be Vancouver. It might be at the bottom of his website. Vancouver. Yep, he's in Vancouver, BC. So he's done leatherworking for a lot of television shows. So they'll hire him to do like bags and van braces and these cool armor sets and everything else that you see on the page. But then that's his day job. But he also runs a Patreon. He runs a YouTube channel. He used to run an Etsy store. I don't know if he still does. And if you come to our website, you'll see that he sells all of his armor patterns, and he sells packs of artwork and all these different things. So he has multiple different income streams and multiple different ways to monetize his passion, which was leatherworking. And he has had it. I've been following him for like 6, 8 years maybe. Um, he's got tons of stuff. Wallets, armor, bags, baldricks, books, boxes, costumes, masks, pouches, quivers, and then he's got all sorts of artwork, and then he's got, an inventory, and then tools and supplies, and I don't know if his blog is current or not. February 2024, yeah, like making a leather gorget. So like you go here, and if you go read the post, like he has an introduction on how to do it. He has a YouTube video on how to do it, and then he's got still images, and then he shows the tools that you need, and then he's got like a leather carving tutorial and all this stuff. Like this guy, this is what I'm talking about. He took his passion and he monetized it, and he created an entire business around it. Um, and I think that especially if you are a creative person, you can find ways. By the way, I don't know if there's a dark version of this website. If there is, I didn't have dark mode on because that white was glaring. Um, I think everyone who has a creative bone in their body can do this. It takes time, though. Um, it takes time to do that. Like it takes time to build all this stuff up. It's not something that you can just snap your fingers and it's going to take 3, 4 years before you're making any sort of revenue whatsoever, unless you're extremely lucky. It's going to be 3 years as average. Every single brand I've ever built myself and every single brand I've helped other people build, it's taken at least 2 to 3 years. 3 years is around the average mark to have it start getting to the point where it's bringing in income. And then how much it takes to be sustainable depends on how much you need to live. Um, but yeah, that goes back to why never sell the cow when you can sell the milk. Like there is some truth to that, but not entirely. Like it just depends on the industry because let's be realistic, like I could sell you a pattern, doesn't mean you're going to be able to make it. I could show you a piece of artwork. This is a funny one. I'm glad you mentioned this thing, Nor, because so in Chris and I's travels, we used to do a lot of photography and videography in the travel industry, right? And a lot of times we would go to these open markets and you would see some really cool bead craft or leather craft or handcrafted things like on display or paintings and things of that nature at these local markets. And invariably you'll see somebody who has a big sign that says no photography, no videos. And they'll get upset if you're in their vicinity taking photos and videos. And the reason they're upset is because they don't want you taking their design, stealing that design, and then selling it on Etsy or something of that nature. But the reality is that's a bass-ackwards way of doing it because you should be on Etsy. You should be selling it online instead of being stuck in the local market and not using the internet to sell your goods. And you also have to realize that just because someone is selling something on the internet that looks like yours doesn't mean it is yours. And it doesn't mean that you can't exist in the same space. And it doesn't mean that you can't sell the same product to someone else or a similar product and have a completely different audience than that person has. because there's a lot of people who do leatherworking on the internet, but he has a unique personality. I'm the perfect example of this. I'm a streamer and content creator who does video game content. I am not unique. I am not unique. I may have a unique perspective and a unique presentation style, but the fact that I play video games online as a white male does not make me unique. There are many white males playing video games online, and some of them are successful, some of them are not successful. But if you would try to say that I can't do that because other people are doing, no, 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 no. Just do it. Just go out there and do it, and you will build an audience as long as you're entertaining and you're making the effort to be presentable and entertaining and things of that nature. But just because you have an idea, I think years ago at a presentation I said, any monkey can lob shit at a wall, right? Any monkey can pick up a wad of shit and throw it, like because that's what monkeys do. Monkeys pick up shit and throw it. But an artist can take that piece of shit and mold it into something that is then sellable. There are many different things you can make out of a pile of shit. Literally. You can make fuel for fires. You can reduce it down. People take elephant shit and put it into coffee. People take shit and use it to fertilize mushrooms, which can be used to infuse coffee or to be sold as mushrooms. There are a million things you can do with shit if you are a creative individual. But most people will only see a piece of shit. And that's the thing. Any monkey can throw shit at the wall. But the person who can take that shit and mold it into something creative, that's the difference. So just because someone has an idea ideas are not unique, because the amount of work it takes to take that idea and turn it into something that is sustainable and makes an income, that's the hard work part. That's the grind part. That's the I'm going to work for free for 3 years. I'm not going to have a relationship. My spouse has to be willing to let me do it. My significant other has to be willing to let me do it. I'm going to sacrifice my friends and family. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this dream off the ground. That's the part that 99% of people are never going to make it through, because they don't have the wherewithal to go through the process of grinding and taking the idea to a functioning business stage. And there's nothing wrong with sharing your process along the way, because that's the only way people are going to find out about it. Like otherwise, you have to have marketing and that behind the scenes access and a Patreon page and social media accounts, and all that stuff is vitally important to building a creative brand for yourself. Um, I just realized this is probably a really good YouTube video to pull out as well. Creative stuff, we'll just call it that. I'll come up with a title for it later. But yeah, it is, and it has been for a few years now, with all these different ways that you can monetize your creativity. It is the time of creators, and we still need engineers and dentists and astrophysicists. We still need people with degrees and things of that nature, but we also absolutely we need creative people. And it's not just even about that. You were mentioning chefs. I'm gonna look up his TikTok here. Give me a second here. Yeah, hear this guy right here. So, Massimo Capra is this chef I follow on TikTok, right? And he's got his own restaurants, right? He's in Canada. Apparently he's got multiple restaurants. He's got one in Ontario, one in Toronto, one in Niagara Falls, one in Clarkson, and then one in Qatar in the airport. But he also has a social media account and all this other stuff. And this guy shares recipes all the time. Why wouldn't you? Gordon Ramsay shares recipes all the time. Why wouldn't you? Like, no one else. I mean, he can give you the recipe. You can make it in your home, but it's never going to be as good as his, probably. Which is why he's not afraid of competition, because he's got 40 years of experience as a chef. He's got his Michelin stars or whatever, and he has his way of doing things that no one else is able to replicate. That's why he has restaurants. So him sharing the recipes with you is not him, you know, he's not giving anything away. You don't have the kitchen he has. You don't have access to the ingredient the same markets that he can go to get ingredients. You can't afford some of the things that he's using, like, but he can give you the recipe and you could make it at home if you want to try it. You know what I mean? Like, um, but anybody can be creative. Like, you just have to go out there and be willing to put your time and effort in. But it does require time and effort. And that's what separates. That's why I'm never afraid of sharing ideas. Nothing wrong with sharing ideas.